Lakers fans are hoping for a deal before Thursday's deadline, but reinforcements still look like a long shot. Is the return of Austin Reaves the only good news fans will get this week? We'll tell you next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify. Maybe you're an Apple guy. I'm an Apple guy. Maybe you're one of the 37,000 plus subscribers to Locked On Lakers, the YouTube channel. No matter how you get this show, you are part of making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network of this or any other known universe. I'm Brian Kamenetsky with Andy Kamenetsky. About 20 years covering the Lakers for ESPN, for the LA Times, for the Athletic, and Deadline Time. Andy is always one of the most exciting for fans. Big names flying around. Some big rumors. A new player that is rumored to be on the market that may be a great fit for a Luka Doncic-led team. We will explain that before the end of it all. But first, we are going to let you know about Austin Reaves and his return to the lineup. A big Lakers win on Tuesday night, kind of a laugher, if you will. Not much resistance put up by the Brooklyn Nets. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Andy, it's not that they played the Nets necessarily, that makes this a big win. It's what they did to the Nets, and more importantly, who was part of it that made Tuesday's laugher cruise control victory over Brooklyn a big deal.
Yeah, the score 125-109 doesn't really demonstrate or reflect how much the Lakers controlled this game. The Lakers were up 28 in the fourth quarter when LeBron was subbed out and JJ started to put in some of the reserves. They were up 24, I believe, when it was basically the beginning of garbage time with 6 minutes left. Luka did not play in the fourth quarter. They were up 30-ish at certain points in this game. They completely controlled it. To your point, though, the big story was Austin Reaves coming back, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and an assist. He looked, as JJ said afterwards, like Austin Reaves. His shot was not there. 3 of 9 from the field, 1 of 5 from behind the arc. That felt more like rust and timing. But from just a pure physical standpoint, he looked like Austin. And the biggest reflection of this was he got to the line 10 times in 21 minutes off the bench. I can already hear the other 29 fan bases around the league bitching upon the return of Austin Reaves, Lakers free throws, all that stuff. It's a new reality, kids. Get used to it. But Austin, it was apropos. The first real possession he had handling the ball, he ended up getting to the line with a little bit under 2 seconds left in the first quarter. And it just sort of set the tone for Austin feeling his way back into this game. But there was definitely an energy and a juice that the team felt, including a sequence where there was a loose ball on a turnover for the Nets. I believe actually Austin bodied the turnover into happening. I can't remember who the ball handler was, but LeBron picked up the loose ball, hit it ahead to Austin, who rather than go for a layup, threw the ball off the backboard for LeBron and a dunk. We later learned that does not count, at least in Brooklyn's house with their local scorekeeper, as an assist.
It was nothing. It was an assist. It wasn't a shot. It wasn't a rebound. It wasn't anything. It was as if the play didn't happen.
Wait, they didn't count that as 2 points for LeBron?
They counted as 2 points for LeBron, but it didn't count as a shot. If it wasn't a pass, then it was a shot. It wasn't like the statistician.
No, I think they would count it as an unassisted field goal for LeBron as opposed to an assist.
Well, no, but you would think if they didn't mark it as an assist, we don't have to get too deep into it. I was like,
then they wouldn't have counted it as points. If it's not a basket.
you would have thought it would have counted as a shot for Reaves if he throws it off the backboard and they're not considering it a pass. But anyway, the point is, it just sort of disappeared into the statistical ether of the building. Right. That's my point. And so I think, the free throws to me were the thing that really stuck out because, like you say, as much as people like to complain about these sorts of things, the Lakers offense is predicated on that type of on free throws. It's Luka getting the line. It is Austin getting to the line. It is, to a lesser extent now, LeBron getting to the line. And when you take Austin away, those 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or sometimes more trips to the line are sorely missed. The Lakers are not a team, when they don't play Brooklyn, that generates a lot of easy points. They don't always turn defense.
They're supposed to, but they don't.
They don't. The Nets are really bad, like really, really bad. But and the Lakers jumped on them early, capitalized on mistakes, did all that stuff. But what they need to be able to do is draw fouls, get to the line, control things in the half court, run when they can. And Austin is just a huge, huge part of that aspect of their attack. And then you also add in, when things are going better, obviously the timing's coming back, he will be a major outlet for 3-point shooting and all these other things. Like, I understand that Austin Reaves is not going to solve their defensive problems. But what he is going to do that I do think will help their defense once he gets his sea legs back is make their offense better. Yeah. And this is a team that needs a variety of ways to try to help that along, help the defense along. And one of them is through a more functional offense with better shooting, with fewer transition opportunities, because the Lakers are scoring from the free throw line rather than open play. All this stuff can theoretically make a big difference. It was also interesting, Andy, this was the moment that got a lot of people reading the tea leaves. Austin didn't start. He was on a minutes restriction. They brought him off the bench, but he did start the third quarter with the Lakers up about 11 billion points. The explanation from JJ Redick was that Austin started the second half in place of Jake LaRavia, who started the game, both because they were worried the game would finish as a blowout and Austin wouldn't get the minutes that they wanted to give him. But also, Jake played a lot of minutes against Washington, and they wanted to make sure he had enough juice left in the tank to finish this game, because they figured they'd need him on the floor at the end of it. Mostly, I think JJ was trying to avoid saying, yeah, this is probably going to be our starting lineup going forward.
Well, he also, to be totally honest, I think JJ gave away his hand when he also said that he was trying to maintain as much of a normal rotation as possible. Ergo, any changes you would make in game with that goal of trying to maintain as normal a rotation as possible, it would seem to me that if you are taking a look at Austin with that group of LeBron, Luka, Ayton, Smart, i.e. the group everybody is expecting to start once Austin is actually back in his normal spot starting, it stands to reason to me that this is just getting ahead of that, because you could have, point of fact, played Austin in garbage time minutes if you wanted to. You could have,
sure.
You absolutely could have. The minutes are the minutes. You could have played Austin 21 minutes, regardless of how you slice them up.
Well, right. But I mean, I think, I do understand the idea that you would want his minutes to be with other players that he would normally play with. But
you could have gotten those. The point being, he was.
Well, I mean, it's possible.
Absolutely. You could have gotten the majority of his 21 minutes, 16 or 17 of them, with the normal rotation players.
It would have been right. The back end would have been potentially about it. It's just, I mean, but
it's JJ saying too much, then realizing he said too much and trying to cover it, which is a habit JJ often does. Because unless it really makes no sense what he was doing, unless he's planning on going with that starting five. I guess unless we see him experiment with a group of LeBron, Luka, Austin, LaRavia, and Ayton for long extended minutes, then I guess I would take JJ at his word.
Right. After the break, that's really essentially what I'm getting at. There are only two combinations here that are viable. It's either going to be Smart as the fifth starter, or it's going to be LaRavia as the fifth starter. So we'll break down a little bit of what we expect to see and which lineup we think is better. Then, Andy, we will tell you whether or not there are more signs that maybe the Lakers actually are waiting for Giannis. That's next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. It is finally settled. The last team standing in the NFL. We know the matchup. It's the Patriots versus the Seahawks. Super Bowl 60. FanDuel is making sure you are right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same game parlay of the season, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels more tense than the last one. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from the kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5, $5, and you get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So pick something really obvious. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Do want to remind people of the Everydayer Club. The trade deadline, it is Thursday, and you only got about a day or two now to get a free month of the new Everydayer Club to help you get ready for it. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everydayer Club gives you access to a group chat on Discord just for Locked On Lakers fans. I was in there leaving questions and asking different stuff for people to answer just this afternoon. Plus national chats where you can hang out with fans from across the league. So again, you can talk to me, you can talk to Andy, answer questions, get access to the national hosts, all that good stuff. You also get ad-free versions of the show. And if you sign up by the deadline, which is Thursday, February 5th, you can use the code deadline to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more, or you can go and check it out at lockedonlakers.supercast.com. All right. So you got two choices. It's either going to be Smart or it's going to be LaRavia. There are people, I still think, who are living in the fantasy realm that believe that somehow Austin Reaves is going to come off the bench because that's what they feel would be the best thing. Even if you're right, you fan out there who thinks Austin Reaves should come off the bench, it's not going to happen. Reaves is going to start. I think he should, but to me, it makes the most sense to use the lineup that you and I have been asking for since the preseason, when everybody is healthy. They finally are. Marcus Smart with the big three and DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense. It gives them obviously not a perfect defense, but I think having Smart in there rather than LaRavia gives them more options, in particular in the areas that they're the weakest, and that frankly Jake is not going to do as much help with point guards, quicker wings, stuff like that. In a lot of ways, Smart is not perfect either, but we're talking about the best of imperfect options. So I would be pretty surprised if it's not Marcus. I know there have been people wondering whether or not JJ would revert to what they think is form for JJ and then put Rui back in the starting lineup, go with the all offense look. I do not think it's going to happen, both because it's a bad basketball decision, but also it would be a bizarre decision to do that now. You've had this whole time to put Rui back in the starting lineup. If you weren't going to do it by now, I don't see any reason why his return to the starting lineup hinged upon Austin's return. That makes no sense at all. I would imagine, again, I think it's going to be the look that we saw opening the second half of this game. And JJ just didn't want to tip his hand. But like I said, I think he also said too much and kind of revealed his hand, whether he wanted to or not. The other interesting thing to me, too.
Yeah, it would have just been easier. Like the most plausible part of that was we just wanted to make sure Austin got his minutes. And with the blowout, we weren't sure. The score of the game, we were sure. Should have stopped talking there. I agree with you. Yeah. If you wanted the mystery to,
it is funny though, JJ, and this just shows he's been coaching longer. He understands the optics in the game a little bit better as a coach. Remember, during his first season, he announced his starting lineup right off the bat, like it was no big deal, nothing really to discuss, and he tried to maintain that this stuff isn't a big deal anyway. Players don't really even care that much. This is a media creation, which everybody knows is horse bleep, and JJ knows that because he played in the league. Now he's starting to become secretive, like a veteran coach. In a lot of ways, this shows JJ's learning. The other thing, though, I think about is interesting before we get to the trade stuff is what happens to the overall rotation as Austin starts being able to get closer to his season average, which is around 35 minutes per game. And I was taking a look at some of the minute allocations while he's been out. During that time, Gabe Vincent's been averaging 17.3 minutes per game, which interestingly, and I'll get to why, is lower than his season average of 19.4. Jake, 30.6, which is a few minutes higher than 27.3 on the season. Marcus Smart, basically the same as his season average, a minute higher. Vando, basically the same as his minutes average, a little bit higher. So thinking about this, you can take a few minutes from Luka and LeBron each just to ease their load, like 3 or 4 from Jake LaRavia, maybe even more, just to get him to his season average. And frankly, this is more than Jake has ever really played in a season. A few more off Marcus Smart for practical reasons. There's always concern about injuries. Maybe a few from Vando, just he functions in some ways like a guard, and also 20 is basically, which is what he's been playing, I think basically the max they want to play him anyway. But the most effective, and I would even argue mandatory way of getting Austin back to his minutes is taking Gabe Vincent out of the rotation, like out entirely, unless you want to play a 10-man rotation or 9.5, or remove Vando because JJ is choosing Gabe over Vando, which is frankly insane. There's no other way to do this other than taking Gabe out of the rotation.
I mean, my guess has always been that once guys are available, genuinely everybody who is a backcourt ball handler type is available. And for the Lakers, that's Reaves and Smart, and then LeBron and Luka. That would be the sort of the litmus test for Gabe Vincent as he's JJ's Torian Prince. They just plays him because he feels like he needs to play. Like Gabe played 16 minutes against the Nets. He didn't score. He took 3 shots. For what it's worth, he was a -9. He played a lot of minutes, some of the minutes later in the game. In the second half, the Nets technically won the second half by 3, but the game was put away so early, there was no real threat here. The Lakers won the first quarter by 18, won the second quarter by 7 more, it looks like. So I'm sorry, did I say 18? I meant 28. In the first quarter, 45-23. Somebody can do the math for me. Maybe that is 18. But the point is they were way at halftime.
Yeah, I did really bad math a few days ago. It's your turn now.
It is. No, but I mean, at least I know that 7 of 20 is not 20%. But
bad math, baby.
I don't think he's not going to play. He'll pop in here and there, but I do agree with you. They need the defensive energy and the versatility that Vanderbilt provides, even with some of his shortcomings. And you can't even say but like his shortcomings as an offensive player,
they're not really much more pronounced than Gabe's.
Exactly.
Are they really?
Other than floor spacing, they're really no different than Gabe Vincent's. And it's defensively, it's just a night and day difference, if for no other, just based on Vanderbilt's size, before you get to some of his skills and the energy and all
The
that
rebounding.
kind of stuff. Rebounding, anything. So we'll see. It's going to take 2 or 3 or 4 games, I think, before Austin is fully integrated and playing the 35 minutes you would expect. Turning to the
real quick, it is telling, I think, that Gabe, his minutes actually went down during this period without Austin. That in and of itself is telling. Who knows? Maybe he won't even be on the team past
other guys. Thursday. Well, we'll see. Yeah, I mean the trade deadline, the movement really started in earnest on Tuesday. The huge move of the day was the James Harden move with Cleveland. The Clippers send him to Cleveland for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. The news that essentially broke that it might happen a night ago at this time when we were recording live on Monday. That's when that news was breaking that it would even happen. And that was followed with Nikola Vucevic. He was traded to the Celtics. I'm missing one.
Jaren Jackson Jr. got moved to Utah.
Right, Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. To Utah for 3 first-rounders and other players going back and forth. That's a big one for Lakers fans because it probably means if there was any chance that Walker Kessler could be on the market, he probably will not be in this offseason, assuming the plan for the Jazz is as many people are reporting it, which is a front line of Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Walker Kessler, which does sound difficult to score against.
Well, unless you go at Markkanen.
Right, but it also with Keontae George, who I believe is 6'8". He's a big guy as one of your guards. These deals influence a lot of what is going on, not just because of Giannis, and Mark Stein had some reporting about him, but also for another name that popped up on the trade radar that could very well keep the Lakers holding on to their assets until the summer, and we'll explain that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Quo New Year, New Systems. This is a time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of running a business and think there's got to be a better way. Well, there is. Quo, Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. If you are ready to make your workday smoother, keep customers connected without headaches, Quo makes upgrading your setup easier than ever. And having your calls, your texts, your voicemails in one clean view keeps everything organized. It helps you stay responsive. And being able to share one team number, this is huge, one team number, makes it so much easier to ensure nothing ever gets missed. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, you get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. No missed calls, no missed customers.
Locked on Lakers is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part's not always easy, especially if you want to go see the Lakers. And that is why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. Our family, my kids are big soccer fans. We like to use the Game Time app to check out LAFC or Angel City. And it's really cool because we can do it. We hop on the app. We can see exactly where the seats are going to be. We can pick this one, that one, ever. And most importantly for me, Andy, I like that I can see the price up front. I know exactly what I'm going to pay with no surprise fees at checkout. I like the zone deals where you choose the section and Game Time picks the seat. It's another really good way to save. Love the last minute options. We do it a lot of times. We'll do it just on game day and head out like 3 hours later to the game. It's fun. So you take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. You download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. So it's lying season. I mean, for lack of a better term, Andy, there is two different lying seasons. They're both around trades, and it's there's the deadline time and then free agency time. All kinds of lying going on in both. So depending on who you believe, the Milwaukee Bucks are actually inclined to hold on to Giannis and see if they get a Cooper Flag style miracle at the draft lottery, where,
fortune favors the bold, Brian.
Right. The bold who do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
At least in this case, they'd be making an active choice to roll the dice. Or they're like this close to consummating a trade with the Minnesota Timberwolves to send him there. So there's all kinds of different scenarios that are kind of rattling around with Giannis. But in terms of the Lakers, it's being reported by Mark Stein and Jake Fisher that the Lakers could be very much in the Giannis sweepstakes if the Bucks hold on to him, or at the very least that the Lakers believe that they could be in the Giannis sweepstakes, or at the very least the Lakers want you to believe, or that somebody wants you to believe that the Lakers will be involved, whether that's the Lakers or somebody else, to try to get another team to sweeten their offer. So I think it is certainly possible that given their limited options, the Lakers will hold out. If it's a 5% chance, a 10% chance, a 12% chance, whatever it is, that the very least, since they probably can't do a whole lot of exciting stuff anyway, they may very well just keep themselves live in the Giannis derby, at least until he's actually dealt.
A lot of this, the devil's in the details. Like in terms of keeping yourself live for the Giannis sweepstakes, what are you passing up on? Like if you're not passing up on, in their minds, any real opportunities, and they may define real opportunities differently than I do, but if you're not passing up on anything that feels like tangibly good for the team, like a tangibly smart move, then sure, you can hang in there waiting for the Giannis sweepstakes. By that same logic, so is every other team that does nothing at the deadline.
Well, sure,
they're also technically waiting.
The Lakers have zero shot at they can't formulate a Giannis trade now.
No, I
in theory, they could do one this summer.
No, I get that.
There.
I get that. The difference is at right around the draft, they have 3 potential firsts that they could use as part of a deal for Giannis, as opposed to only having 1 now, and Austin Reaves that I guess they would need to sign over or trade over, and then the Bucks would have to tie him up and keep him chained until he gave a blood oath to sign an extension with the Bucks or re-up with them or whatever. Like like I said, I've said this many times leading up to where we are now. I do not want them passing up on legitimate opportunities to try to build a team around Luka, like the pieces of a legitimate supporting cast around Luka, in order to leave themselves open for a 10% chance of getting Giannis, which also is a 90% chance of not.
That's true. That was the premise of the setup. There was that the idea that you probably can't do a lot substantive anyway. The names that are kind of popping around, with exception, which we'll get to in just a second, are basically what they have been. It is, Andrew Wiggins. It is, guys like that the Lakers maybe would have interest in, but like, do you want to be in the Andrew Wiggins business for next year? Is that where you would spend your money, so to speak? The Utah Jazz, for example, would have had about close to $50 million in cap space. They made their big free agent signing on Tuesday. They acquired Jaren Jackson Jr.
Which
now
makes
they're
sense
not,
because they don't ever get free agents.
right. And so now they're not going to have cap space, but they already essentially made their free agent play. If the Lakers had something like that, it would be, I think, a different story. But the names haven't really changed. The exception to that is, and this is both a maybe for now, but much more likely for the summertime, Jared Allen reportedly is being shopped by Cleveland. And this is something we can talk about certainly as the week goes on. That is a very intriguing name. A guy who cost about, I think, a little over $30 million once his new contract kicks in. As a I believe he's about 20 right now, and I believe he's got a new contract coming in to be about 30. That's a guy that, in terms of, if we needed to wait for the summertime, I'd be inclined to say that might be worth a shot, because if I could spend a first rounder now on Nick Claxton, or wait and maybe spend a little bit more, but get access to, a potential Jared Allen trade, that to me is worth it. Because if I acquire Claxton at the deadline, let's say I can make that happen, I'm not going to have enough stuff likely to get Jared Allen, and probably, or the need for it. You'd have to spend that money or those assets somewhere else. I think Jared Allen as a partner for Luka would be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, he is, in a lot of ways, I think he's a better version in certain respects than Nick Claxton. I don't know if he has all of the defensive versatility of Claxton, but I think he's a better overall rim protector, better overall rebounder. He's been more of an offensive force.
He's a significantly better player.
Right.
In my mind.
Well, I think he's better. You said, though, it would only cost you a little bit more. It actually would cost you a lot more. It would cost you, by the end of his contract, about $10 million more.
No, I'm not talking money. I'm talking stuff. I think it takes more stuff to get Allen.
Well, I mean, if you're going to, I guess. I mean, it probably would cost you more, although maybe not player. Because I was going to say maybe not, because if Cleveland's looking to do this, first and foremost, what they're looking to do is get off Jaren Allen's money. Correct. So it may not cost you necessarily. I thought you meant more in salary. It may not actually cost you that much more in terms of what you give up.
The reason I say that is because I think the competition for somebody like him, Allen makes, at $30 million at his production is pretty reasonable. And he's a pretty good.
It may be, but I don't know how many teams. Center. I don't know how many teams around the league actually need a center.
Maybe not, but then that's even more reason. I think if you can't swing it now, but Allen doesn't get traded, and you think that market will be there, like those are the type of names where you look at it and you say that's not really even compromising. The money is reasonable. A player of his caliber, that's about the money that you would expect to pay. The fit is quite good. The age timeline matches up. He and Luka are basically the same age. All of that kind of makes sense. So that type of keeping your powder dry makes sense to me, because it's not just about maybe we can get a crack at this superstar. It's maybe we can get a crack at this supporting player that would fill a massive need. On the team.
No, I would be happy with either, or at least I can see the upside to getting both of those guys with Jared Allen. And to be clear, this concern doesn't exist for Nick Claxton, because I'm pretty sure he's never been to the playoffs. With Jared Allen, though, there is concern that he has not performed well in the playoffs, that he is a playoff shrinker. And that's something that I do think needs to be considered, because he would be your center of the foreseeable future. That being said, though, Jared Allen is a very good player. And if you got him during this offseason, that would be great. Frankly, if you think he's available in the offseason, you might as well try to get him now.
No, I look,
I would look to be aggressive to get him now, as opposed to worrying about the Giannis piece of this, because guess what?
Yeah.
You could flip him for Giannis.
If I could get,
or whatever.
Allen, right. If I could get Allen today, I'd do it today. I don't know if that is a choice. Because I don't know if Cleveland's moving that fast yet. Also, I don't know if essentially a first and a bunch of expiring contracts would be enough to get it done. Like
May
the
not
one
be.
burst that the Lakers could offer. Cleveland might hold out hope for that. I mostly mention it as um, an indication of how markets do flip, they change. Utah went from a major player to at least currently a team that won't be, with a center in Walker Kessler that teams were going to try to poach, and now probably is going to stay in Utah, at least again, as you know, what we're looking at right now on
I never
paper.
bought the Walker Kessler thing to begin with, so
I
I don't
didn't
see it
either,
as a
but
loss.
as he would have been one of the, somebody with 10 teams across the league with a lot of cap space, somebody could have thrown a lot of money at Walker Kessler and at least made Utah's life harder. So these markets shift, and that's both good for the Lakers and it's bad for the Lakers, because Rob Pelinka sure does love waiting to see what's behind door number 2.
I mean, I don't love the waiting to see what's behind door number 2 if there's always a bunch of doors, just because
There's always another
it can
door.
lead to inactivity. I've also talked
Always.
about the lack of imagination towards doing this, the star effery. Also, too, if I'm really being honest, I am not wild about the idea of Giannis's next contract that will be, I believe, like in the 60-ish or so $1 million range when he's getting hurt a lot. Like, I don't really want to sign up for those Giannis years. Like, I understand that if they work out, they're going to work out awesome, but he is trending towards a direction where they may not work out that well at all.
Health-wise, for sure. His performance has been phenomenal, but his health is
It doesn't matter if he ain't on the court.
That is true. All right. So we'll be, obviously checking on what goes on Wednesday ahead of the Thursday deadline. Have a full show, update you with any information as the day goes along with, short shows and updates, and check out the YouTube channel, check out the Discord channel. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. We'll see everyone tomorrow.